Good morning, grown-ups, and welcome to our Key Stage 1 Reading Workshop. It's a little bit strange doing a reading workshop online because normally these are done in the hall with all of you there, all asking questions, us going through it together, but obviously we can't do that at the moment, so we'll do our best with an online reading workshop. And if you've got any questions or anything that you need for support, please give me an email and I'll try to help you as best as I can. So this reading workshop is for Year 1 and Year 2 children, for children in Key Stage 1. Mrs. Randall did do a workshop for reception children a few months ago, so I'll also be reposting that to Facebook if your child is in reception. So hopefully we're going to keep this reading workshop fairly simple. We're going to try to answer two main questions for you today, which are: how do we teach your child to read? How do we teach your children to read in school? And how can you help support your child to read at home? So I really hope you find this useful, so let's get going. Okay, so at Chalkboard Hall, we really believe in the power of reading. We want to foster a love of reading from as soon as your child starts school, because we really believe that reading is one of the big tools in life to help them. We encourage them to read for pleasure and to gain information, and we try to promote reading across the whole curriculum. So no matter what the subject, we try to incorporate reading into that subject. Okay, so like I said before, at Chalkboard Hall Infant School, we believe that reading is super important, and we really think that reading and even just sharing a story really matters. So here are some reasons why we think it's so important. So even just reading together is a really fun and helpful way to help build relationships. Now, with vocabulary, books contain new words and it helps your child's language and understanding. So even if you're reading a book to them, subconsciously they're absorbing that information about new words, new language, about sentence structures, how to use words effectively, and then they use them in their speaking and in their writing as well. And reading is so important to help your child succeed. Research has constantly and consistently shown that there's a really strong correlation between reading and academic success. Reading promotes achievements in all subjects, not just English, and children who are good readers tend to achieve better in other subjects as well. And the impact of reading lasts a lifetime. Readers who are more confident, research has shown, go on to have better and greater job opportunities. Okay, so this slide will go through some of the ways in which we engage and teach your child to read. Now, lots of the things in this slide I'll go through in more detail later on in the workshop, but it should give you a better idea of what we do in school. So we do things like Book Week, which engage children and gives reading that extra oomph to show how fantastic we think it is, and we pass that engagement and excitement onto the children. We do individual reading with the children to assess where they are, how they're progressing, and children love to read with their teacher, so it's a bonding moment for teacher and child as well to read together. We used to use the library. Unfortunately, at the moment, the library is not in use, but once restrictions lift, we'll be going back to our school library, allowing the children to take books home. So fingers crossed it isn't too much longer. Our active read lessons. The children love our active read lessons, and this is the big chance for them to really develop their comprehension skills, but we'll talk about active read in a bit more detail later on. We have our phonics and our spelling lessons, and we make sure that when we're teaching our phonics and spelling that we go into a detail about the rules. So if a child does come across a word, they can use their knowledge of the rules to figure out what the word says. We make sure that our environment in the classroom promotes the love of reading. We'll have books out, we have our book corners, we'll make sure we have things on the walls to make sure that we show children just how important reading is. We're going to be starting something called group reading, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later in the workshop because we haven't quite started it yet, but we're starting it once we come back. We have story times, and these books are just a chance to show pleasure for reading, and we try to do a story with the children. No, well, we do a story every day. Every day there'll be a chance for a story in class. We give the children ample opportunities to enjoy books for pleasure, whether that's during activity time, during our soft starts, having our books out, and giving the children opportunities to just get a book and read for pleasure. We have our individual reading books as well. These books are at your child's specific reading ability. They should be hard enough that your children might have to work at some of the words to figure out what they say, but easy enough for them to enjoy reading the book. We don't want them struggling on every word. And we used to have the book fair, again due to current COVID restrictions. We haven't been able to have it recently, but the children love the book fair and it really helps them get that passion. They really want that new book. So hopefully we'll be getting the book fair back again soon. Okay, so these are our book banding guidelines. So this is roughly where we would want your child to be before they move on to the next level. So it's the number of words and the number of phonemes we would like them to know to show they are ready for that reading level. Now this isn't set in stone. Teachers obviously use their own judgments as well to assess if a child is ready for the next reading level. They've also got to have the right level of reading comprehension, which we'll talk about later, because there's no point them being able to fluently read a book if it's too tricky for them to understand. Phonics is the main way that we teach children to read at Chalkboard Hall Infant School. Phonics is statutory, it's taught across all schools in the UK, and it really has been shown beneficial to help children with their reading. Phonics teaches children that you can turn letters into sounds, and these sounds can be blended to make words. So there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and these make 44 sounds. These sounds we call phonemes. So phoneme is what you hear. So think of it as in a phone. So an example of a phoneme might be a, s, m, t, a, e, I. So remember, phonemes is what you hear. Now a grapheme is the sound is the phoneme written down. It's the phoneme written down. So these are graphemes. A, R, D, K, A, M, O, O. So these are all examples of graphemes. When the children are in reception, they'll learn all the single sounds and they'll learn one other way of making the other sounds, like A, E, I. When the children get into year 1 and year 2, they learn the alternative graphemes because, so for example, A can be made in lots of different ways. It can be made with the A and the Y, as in pay. It can be made with an A and an I, as in snail. And it can be made with a split digraph, as in make. So a digraph, some of this language can be a bit tricky, can't it? So a digraph are two letters that make up a phoneme or a grapheme. So sh is made up of an S and a H. Ch is made up of a C and a H. Th is made up of a T and a H. And R is made up of an A and an R. So a digraph is made up of two letters. We also have trigraphs. Now trigraphs are 3 letters. So ire is made up of I-R-E, air is made up of A-I-R, ear is made up of E-A-R, and I is made up of I-G-H. So a trigraph is made up of 3 letters. We also have our split digraphs. These can be a little bit tricky. So as you can see, it's 2 letters. So this is split digraph I, which is made up of an I and an E, but there's a gap in the middle and another letter goes in the middle, which is why we call it a split. So we have split I, split O, split E, split U or U, and split A. And one way that we sometimes say to help them remember is that the E is making the letter say its name, not its sound. So we might say that it's making it say A instead of A. It's making it say O instead of O. And that can sometimes help with the splits. But it's just, all you need to remember is that there's the letter in the middle. Decoding is when we break up a word into its phoneme. So if I had this word, I would break it up into the sh, the e and the p. That's decoding. Blending is when we push them back together. So it's when I can say sh, e, p, blends together to make sheep. Phonics lessons happen every day and they normally take about 20 minutes. Children really enjoy our phonics lesson, and every day our lessons follow the same structure so they know exactly what's coming next. So when we teach phonics, we follow a read, write, ink approach, and each lesson is split up into 4 parts. So first we have review. That's when we go over all the previous sounds that they have learnt. We'll then introduce and teach a new sound, and that's when we do some oral decoding and blending. So if we were teaching "Oh, blow the snow," I might say to the children "S, N, O," and they would have to say back to me "S, N, O, snow." We then go on to practice, and this is where the children get a chance to decode real and alien words on the board together as a class. And at the end we have an apply. This is when we get the children to read the phoneme in a sentence and write words and sentences containing that grapheme. So throughout the year, teachers are constantly assessing your child's phonetic knowledge. We do this in phonics lessons, we do it through reading with children, but we also do it by asking them to read us alien words with the graphemes that we've taught them in. So this first alien word would say S, E, and we'd want them to blend it together and say seeth. That would let us know that they know the S, E and th grapheme and that they can blend it together. So the next word, ch, oi, n, they'd hopefully blend it together to say join. Again, that would let us know that they know the ch, the oi and the n. The last one would be t, a, f, and we'd want them to blend it together to say tafe. And again, that lets us know that they know the t, the A, the split A, and the F. If they say all the sounds, like S, E, F, but then they say something like sheep, we'll know that they need a little bit of support with blending. Whereas if they just couldn't identify what the grapheme was, we'd know that they'd need a little bit more support with recognising different graphemes. So it's really useful to help us identify those that need a little bit of extra support, and it also helps inform our planning. Alongside the skill of being able to read by using our phonics, We also teach the children the skill of reading words on sight, and our sight words can be broken down into two categories, into red words and into speedy greens. So red words are words that you can't sound out, you can't decode, and we say you can't Fred a red, and that means if you tried to sound it out, it wouldn't make any sense. So if we've got the word said, if we tried to sound that out, we'd say said, said. Or if we had the word you, we'd say you, ow, yow. And obviously that doesn't make any sense. So red words, they just need to be learned on sight. Now speedy greens, you can decode speedy greens, you can sound them out, but these speedy greens are really common words that they're going to see really frequently. So we learn these as speedy greens, we learn them on sight in order to help build up fluency. All of our red and green words are available on our website. Active Read is a lesson that the children absolutely love. It happens frequently, happens about 3 times a week, and it's where we read a book together as a whole class. Now this isn't a story time, it is different from story time, and I'll tell you how it's different. So these books are specially chosen because they hope to be a book that the child hasn't read before. We try to find books that the children haven't seen, and we also make sure that the level of the text is above the reading standard of the class. The reason we do this is to give the children opportunities to use their comprehension and prediction skills, and we make sure that we're teaching them strategies in order to answer questions about the book. Listening to the children's reasoning, listening to their answers also helps the teacher's ongoing assessment in order to judge what standard they've reached and what the child's next steps will be. So when we're doing Active Read, we tell the children that they're going to be vipers, and vipers is all about understanding what you're reading. So to really understand what you're reading, to be a really good reader, you need to have a good understanding of vocabulary, so the words that we're reading, inference, prediction, able to explain what you've read, retrieval, so where you're retrieving information that you've read in the book, and sequencing, being able to put what you've read into an order. I'm going to talk about these and the sorts of questions that you could ask in the next couple of slides. When we teach Active Read, we think really carefully about how we can ask good questions in order to help the children improve their comprehension. This slide will hopefully give you some good ideas about how you can ask your child some good questions at home when you're reading with them. So each Active Read lesson, we focus on a different aspect of the vipers. So if we were looking at vocabulary, we would get the children to draw upon the previous knowledge, the knowledge of the vocabulary they already have in order to understand a text. So we might get them to think about what a word means, what word in a text means the same as something, what does a word or phrase tell you, getting them to think about maybe how words make you feel and why those words have been used. If we look at inference, this is when the answer isn't directly in the text. They've got to deduce the answer. They've got to use the text's clues to help them make a conclusion about what has been said or done. So it might ask them why a character is feeling a certain way, why something has happened in a story, why has a character said a certain something. Now, prediction, the children like making predictions, they like having a good guess, and so when they predict, they've got to think about what will happen based on information that they already have, that they already know. So if we were to ask them what a book is going to be about, they might use a front cover, they might use the blurb, they might use knowledge of a similar story to help them guess. If we were asking them what's going to happen next, again, they might use clues from earlier in the story, they might use ideas about what they already know, or they might again think about what's happened in a similar story, and they might then apply it to this book. Explanation is when we get the children to explain their thoughts, feelings and opinions about a text. So we might ask them if they like the story, if they would like to live in the setting, if they liked the character, what character traits they thought the character had. Now, when they explain their thoughts and opinions, we want them to also explain why, if they can give a because, if they can give a reason behind their answer. Retrieval is probably the easiest of all of the comprehension techniques, and that's when they just find the information in the book, and that means the answer is directly there. So it might be asking, who is someone? Where did something happen? When did it happen? What happened when? And children are normally quite good at this. You might even want them to point to the answer in the text. Sequencing is when we get the children to put the order of events in a text into order. So we might ask them what happened after, or what happened before. We might ask them what was the first thing to happen in the story, or the last thing to happen. A good way of doing this is maybe getting them to retell the story in their own words. So group reading is something that we haven't quite started yet, but we're really looking forward to implementing. We plan to implement it as soon as we are back in school as normal. So group reading is going to be happening several times a week, very regularly, and it's going to be where one group of similar ability children read the same book at the same time with the class teacher. So the children will be together in the group and they'll discuss things like the cover, the blurb, the genre. They might make some predictions, talk about what the book is going to be about, and then they're going to have a chance to read that book to the child. Okay, so comprehension. Why do we think that comprehension is so important? Okay, so if we look at the following passage, we're going to see if we can answer the questions. So let's have a look. Ron, im, illy, bastruf, inni, vasby, t, desh, pinksky, inni, vasby, t, push, farno. So the questions are, Kulto imron, Corsi bo inni vasti, Cormus bo inni vasti desh pinksay, Colton, Tosh, Von, Push, Van. Now, we've got no idea what we've read. We've got no idea what those questions mean. So actually, that means nothing to us. It's pointless. We can't understand what we've read. So on the next slide, we'll look at something that we can understand to show the importance of comprehension. So if we look at this passage, Ron is a girl. She went to the park. She went to play football. She passes the ball to her friend and laughs. So if we look at the question, what is the girl's name? We can easily look back and say that the girl's name is Ron. The next question is, where did she go? And we know from reading the text that she went to the park. Why did she go to the park? Again, we know from the text that she went to the park to play football. And the last question is, do you think she likes football? So if we look at the text, we can use clues in the text to help us know if she likes football. And we can see that she's laughing. So we can say, yes, she likes football because she's laughing when she's playing it. Now, there's no point in moving on to more complicated books if you cannot comprehend and understand the simpler books. We need to be able to comprehend as well as to decode. This slide is going to show you some ways in which you can engage and support your child with reading at home. Hopefully it will give you some good ideas. So a bedtime story is a nice easy one and really enjoyable, and it is really beneficial. So I hope you enjoy sharing a bedtime story. Having a wide range of reading materials, so that's not just books, obviously your fiction, your non-fiction, but that's newspapers, magazines, leaflets that come through your door, menus. Children can use those in their play, and even having a read of just a magazine or just a menu can be really helpful. Using the library, obviously with COVID restrictions, libraries aren't open as much, but they are open for click and collect, or it might be nice to wait just till we go back to normal. Asking those good questions. So once you've read a couple of pages or even just a few lines, asking those really good questions that we saw a few slides ago, and that really helps improve your child's comprehension. Reinforcing phonics and sight words. So if they make a mistake when they're reading, taking them back, pointing to it, seeing if they can remember, playing some sight words games. We've got lots on Facebook, lots on our website that are useful. Having a look and seeing if you can read words and phrases in the environment. So maybe asking your child to see if they can spot signs that have the ch in, or the s, or whatever phoneme they're learning that week. You could ask them to see if they can read the labels in a supermarket or the signs in a shop. A secret message. You could leave messages in your child's lunchbox or for them when they get up, for them to have a little read of, and I think they'll really like that one. Give them opportunities to read. I think I've said some of this before, things like recipes, road signs, even packaging on food. Now, we always say your child is never too old to read to you or for you to read to them, so enjoy sharing a story together, and lots of support and encouragement. We want them to feel really good about reading, and make it a pleasure, make it fun, and hopefully that will really help your child to enjoy books. Thank you so much for coming to this Key Stage 1 reading workshop. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you found it useful. If you've got any questions about your child's specific reading ability, you might want to check in with their class teacher. If not, if you have any other questions or need any support, please email me and I'll be happy to help you. Okay, thanks for coming. Bye.